Hi, thank you for joining me. Today I will be covering some of the pour acrylic abstract paintings, which is, this will be a dirty pour, and that means that all of the colors will go into the same cup before I pour them out. What you'll need is some of these little stick pins, containers that will hold the paint, and I'm going to be working on a very small surface, so these little small cups will work. You'll need some glue. The cheap glue will work also. The painting medium that you normally use would be either a gloss or a matte medium. Any type of matte medium. This is what I normally use, but instead today, because I've used this on some of the skins, I use the glue. So I would say experiment with the glue first, and then you can use the matte medium if you like, or just stick with the glue. This is GAC 100, and I think you can use this, but I know the Golden says use the 800, GAC 800. You can, it's going to do the same thing since it's a medium. The matte medium or the glue is going to do the same thing as the matte medium. And the matte medium is just something that helps the paints flow. It stretches the paint also without, you can thin it using that, and it'll kind of hold its properties instead of using a whole lot of water to interfere with the properties that the acrylic polymers have. Or you can use the glue, and so I'm going to use the glue. When I'm experimenting with stuff, I often use a offset of the more expensive stuff. I found that these cheap paints work really well for experimenting. When you decide that you want to make some of these really nice paintings to sell or display for longer periods of time, then I would suggest investing in some more expensive paints. And the difference is there is more pigment in that paint. The paint is a better quality. It will last longer. Also, when you're mixing it, it will require a little more mixing and a little more of the medium, be it glue or matte medium, because the paints are much thicker. You also need a surface, and it is recommended to use some type of framed canvas. I'm going to experiment right now with the canvas paper. And what I did was, since I don't have, this is not framed, I'm using a poster board that I've cut just slightly larger than the paper itself. And I have put these stick pins on the bottom and pressed them through, if you can see that, the paper. This is not something that I'm trying to display. This is just experimental, and therefore that will work out this will work just fine. I would prefer, if I'm going to frame it, I like the gallery wrap canvases, which are the thicker canvases, so they look much better when you hang them on the wall. Now what I've already done is mix my glue and water to a 3-to-1 ratio. And I have also on hand some alcohol, which helps make those nice designs. And instead of silicone, or just not instead of, I'm using the silicone that I'm using is in, you guessed it, I'll show you this cheap version, brake fluid, because the brake fluid has silicone in it. And so instead of using the more expensive stuff, I'm just going to use some of that. And I placed them, since I use this glue already, I just placed them in these bottles and labeled them. And this will get a little tedious, so you'll also need something to mix with. And get you some popsicle sticks, but I do some printmaking and I use spoons, so I'll just use the backs of these spoons for this particular project. And I'm not going to need a lot. This glue is white, but it dries clear. I'm just eyeballing it. That's all I'm doing. I'm not going to try and cover the entire paper because this is an experiment. Putting enough color in this. I'm just going to mix it with the white right now and see how that goes. So now I will mix a little of each color in my white. And set those aside. Giving a look-see to see if it's on the bottom, and it's not. And so now I'm going to do a flip. Everything is in one cup. I'm going to put the canvas paper on top, flip it over, set it down. I could have did a little stir with the bottom of the, I could have stirred that a little and see what would happen, but I'm not. I'm just going to kind of leave that like it is and see what it does on its own. So I'm going to let that sit for a few, and I generally write on my paper to keep myself on track. And what I did was I wrote a little note that said BF, brake fluid, white only. So I let myself know that since this is an experiment, and I'm only going to add it to the brake fluid to the white. You see what it's doing? Let me zoom back out so you can see what I'm doing. Bring it in so you can see there's a lot of stuff happening there, and that's what you want to happen. That's happening because of the water content of the paint, the water and the glue, and the silicone, which is an oil. And it changes depending on what I do and how I do it. And so when you're doing this, you want to pay attention to what formations are happening, because if something happens that you like and you want to keep it, you would want to stop. Now the white's taking over on this part, and I'm losing all my browns. The other thing is I want to, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to leave that like that. I really, since it's just an experiment, I'm seeing, I can't resist. And when I said I couldn't resist, I couldn't resist. I'm going to put a couple of little drops of alcohol here in the part that I dripped on there last. To cause some action. And you should torch it, which my torch is in storage. So I'm going to use see if I can use my embossing heat tool. Okay, that still has to set because unlike using the torch, I don't know if you can see those wrinkles in there. There's quite a few wrinkles in here where the liquid underneath, the paint underneath is still very wet. It was a little, you can see that was a little indentation there. Using the torch kind of freezes everything. It stops this action from happening. And so that's why you would use the torch to stop all of the beautiful interactions between the silicone oil, the oily based silicone, and the acrylic based polymers. Kind of pleased with that. It's just an experiment to see how how everything will work. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.